Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and today I'm going to review two fragrances from the brand of Rayhaan that are called Imperia and Imperia Intense. So let's take a little bit more of an in-depth look into Imperia and Imperia Intense. And the first fragrance that I'm going to talk about a little bit more into details about will be Imperia. Okay, so this is the box that Rayhaan Imperia comes packaged in. As you can see, it comes in this black colored box with some silver accents. On the front you got the name of the company, the name of the fragrance, the concentration EDP, the bottle size 100 milliliters, and if anyone is interested, as you can see here is the production date, which is May of 2024. And then this is the actual bottle design of Imperia per ohm from Rayhaan. As you can see, the bottle has this squarish design that kind of looks old school and has a bit of a Bleu de Chanel vibes. On the front you got the name of the fragrance and the company, and on the back you got this pattern that's in sort of a white or silver colored. The cap is plastic, and the bottle looks alright. As you saw in the up and close shots of Imperia Intense, this actually is more on the simplistic side when it comes to the packaging, when it comes to the bottle design, something that you don't see very often from Middle Eastern fragrance houses, which tend to use very sort of luxurious packaging. But actually I kind of like the simplistic and old school looking bottle design of Imperia. But enough about that. Now let's talk about the scent of Imperia. Probably, if you have been in the fragrance game, you already know that Imperia was hyped up to be a very good clone of none other than Creed Aventus. And yes, this is a clone of Creed Aventus. Let me spray it on hand. I'm already wearing this today on one of my hands, so I'm just going to respray it. The sprayer is actually pretty decent. A little bit spitty, but still does its job well. And now onto the scent of Imperia. It's been heavily inspired by Creed Aventus, and you'll immediately pick up on that once you spray Imperia. But this opens up a little bit fresher than the original fragrance in the opening, feels a little bit more citrusy, lacks the strength of the pineapple note. If this has a pineapple note, it's a very faint one, it's not a very strong one, not as strong as you get out of the original fragrance. But at the same time, this feels kind of nice. You get the citruses, you get a bit of smokiness, you get some sweetness, in the opening. Maybe there's a hint of a rose note in here. It feels also quite birchy. And all around the opening actually is pretty nice. Doesn't feel very synthetic. There's a bit of syntheticness, synthetic feel in it, but it's not overpowering. It's nowhere near as strong as you get from something like Club de Nuit Intense Man EDT, for an example. It's quite a balanced opening that has nice amount of freshness, nice amount of sweetness, nice amount of smokiness, some woodiness, and also that birchiness. When this goes into the dry down, it becomes sweeter, it becomes a little bit more woody. The citruses start to lose their strength, becomes maybe a little bit more smoky on the dry down, and all around this actually is done pretty nicely. And I've been quite impressed with the way that Rayhaan Imperia smells. Again, pretty similar to the original fragrance. When it comes to the similarities, now at this point it's pretty hard to compare it to the original fragrance, because the original fragrance has so many different batches. You got the smoky batches, you got the fruity batches and whatnot. So in reality, I will tell you what I can pick up as a difference compared to what I've tried from Creed Aventus. I'm not sure whether the Creed Aventus batches that I've tried are smoky, fruity, or whatever. But this, to my nose, from what I've tried from Creed Aventus, this smells on the dry down smells a little bit sweeter compared to Creed Aventus. And also in the opening smells a little bit fresher, but all around in the air smells very similar to the original fragrance. When it comes to performance, it's a decent performance, nothing spectacular, not bad either. I've been getting about 7.5 to 8 hours of performance out of it, with pretty nice projection in the first up to 2 hours. Not super strong projecting, but over a modern moderate projecting fragrance, and the total longevity is also pretty good. When it comes to the price, this is one of the cheapest Creed Aventus clones that you can get. Around here in Europe, this tends to cost around about the €25 mark, which in fact in my collection I have only one Creed Aventus clone that's cheaper than this one, so this is actually very affordable. And when it comes to versatility, a masculine fragrance that's absolute king when it comes to versatility, can be worn pretty much all year round for any type of occasion. Now let's check out the second Rayhaan fragrance featured in today's video, which is called Imperia Intense. Let's go up and close and check the packaging and the bottle design. This is the box of Rayhaan Imperia Intense. Exactly the same box design, but the colors here are black and yellow or golden. Again, you got the name of the company, the name of the fragrance Imperia Intense, the concentration EDP, and the bottle size 100 milliliters. And again, down here we can find the production date, which in this case is April of 2024. And this is the actual bottle design of Imperia Intense, exactly the same bottle design as the OG Imperia, but as you can see on the back, you got the same pattern, but this time in golden colors or yellowish colors. Exactly the same squarish looking bottle. As you saw, the packaging and the bottle design is very similar to the OG Imperia. And again, I really like the sort of simplistic and slightly old school looking bottle. And now let's talk about the scent of Imperia Intense. When it comes to the original Imperia, this was a definite clone of Creed Aventus, but when it comes to Imperia Intense, actually I'm not sure if this is cloning anything at all or if it's an original creation from the brand of Rayhaan. It smells somewhat similar to something, I'll tell you that in a little bit later, but I think this has really been a fragrance that's been created, you know, by Rayhaan on their own, so an original creation. Again, I'll show you the spray in action. I'm wearing this on my other hand today, so let's respray. Again, a very good spray, in fact slightly better than the Imperia one. And now let's talk about the scent. Now this fragrance is quite strong and quite loud, let me start with that. Also, it's quite sweet. I pick up quite a lot of vanillic and ambery sweetness, and also even something like a hint of a caramel sweetness in the opening of this one. It feels a little bit spicy, also feels a little bit green. Now the spiciness in here doesn't feel very sharp or you know, anything like that. It feels slightly peppery. And also again feels pretty sort of green in the opening. Smells kind of fresh and clean, but also has quite a bit of sweetness. The more this dries down, the sweeter it actually becomes a little bit woody. I think there's a sandalwood note in this fragrance, especially on the dry down. Maybe a hint of vetiver, which gives it a bit of a grassy and sort of an earthy undertone, but it remains quite sweet. All in all, it's a very interesting scent profile that again feels a little bit spicy, feels a little bit green, feels a little bit earthy and woody, and also feels quite sweet. And it's quite an interesting creation from the brand of Rayhaan. When it comes to what this is similar to, cloning or close to, again, I'm not sure if this is an actual clone of anything, but what this brings you know, in mind whenever I smell Imperia Intense actually is Creed's Silver Mountain Water. Now, I'm not saying this is a direct clone or anything that's super close. It just has this sort of a slightly green, fresh, clean undertone of the original fragrance, but this is like a way stronger and a way sweeter version of you know, of the Creed fragrance. Again, I don't think this is a clone of anything, more like an original creation. When it comes to the performance, Imperia Intense actually is quite a strong fragrance. I've been getting 8.5 to 9 hours of performance out of it, and also this tends to be quite loud. It projects very loudly for 2, maybe even 2.5 hours. So performance wise, this is actually a pretty strong fragrance. Price wise, just like the other Imperia fragrance, tends to cost about 25 euros here in Europe, which I think given the interesting scent profile and the strong performance, this actually is quite a good deal. And when it comes to versatility, it's pretty versatile fragrance that can be worn pretty much all year round, maybe apart from the hottest months of the year, simply because of how sweet this fragrance is, and maybe carries a little bit more of a youthful factor because of the amount of sweetness that it has. And in the end, a few final words about the two fragrances featured in today's video, the OG Imperia and Imperia Intense. When it comes to the OG Imperia, this is a nice clone of Creed Aventus, yet another good clone of Creed Aventus. Feels kind of redundant you know, at this point in time because of you know, the sheer number of clones of Creed Aventus that we have currently to choose from. But one good thing that it has going for it is the fact that it's very affordable. It's one of the cheapest Creed Aventus clones that I have in my collection. Again, I think I have only one cheaper fragrance than this one It's comes from the brand of Hadlash, and it's called Hadlash Infini, the OG Infini. That's the only cheaper fragrance, cheaper clone of Creed Aventus that I have. On its own, this is done really nicely. It has very decent performance, has quite a balanced scent profile that doesn't feel overly synthetic like many other cheaper clones of Creed Aventus. All around it's done pretty nicely, but again feels kind of redundant in my opinion, unless you're yet to buy a Creed Aventus clone. The reasons why you should get this one, again, good performance, cheap price tag, and I feel that the sort of the direct competitors to this one is something like a Club de Nuit Intense Man, the EDT version. Now, if you have to choose between the EDT version of Club de Nuit Intense Man and Imperia, then I would go with Imperia because it feels more balanced, it feels less citrusy and less sharp in the opening. All around feels of an better quality overall. Performance is pretty decent, on par with what you get from the Club de Nuit Intense Man EDT, and this is cheaper, at least around where I live. But if you already own a clone of Creed Aventus, I don't think that you need this one. It feels kind of redundant in that case. When it comes to Imperia Intense, this is an interesting fragrance that I don't feel is a straight up clone of anything. It's quite an unique creation from the brand of Imperia. It feels kind of fresh, kind of aromatic, kind of woody, a little bit spicy, and it's also pretty sweet and has a very good performance, better than the OG Intense Imperia, excuse me. It's a pretty versatile fragrance that can be worn pretty much all year round, and all in all, I think it's actually a pretty interesting offer from the brand of Rayhaan, and I don't have anything in my collection that actually smells similar to what Imperia Intense smells. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can check out Imperia Intense, but I will urge you to actually try and sample it or try it first before you actually commit to a full bottle purchase. And so guys, in today's video I showed you two interesting offerings from the brand of Rayhaan, Imperia and Imperia Intense. I hope that you found this video interesting or useful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.